I just feel 100% better since I quit smoking. That's a real common comment you'll hear from people who are, recent ex-smokers. They're off for weeks. They're off for, not necessarily for years. They're not going to remember the differentiation here. And not people who are off for 2 or 3 days. They're in the middle of withdrawal. But people who are relatively recent quitters will often find themselves, and you'll often overhear it being said, oh my God, I feel great from not smoking. Got to point something out about this. These people are not feeling great from not smoking. These people are feeling normal from not smoking. They used to just feel, in a sense, miserable a lot of the time. They'd wake up in drug withdrawal every day. The longest stretch they were going without smoking was often when they were sleeping. So they'd wake up in withdrawal. Then they'd have to smoke one after another in the morning to try to get the nicotine level to some sort of a, even keel level. And then, throughout the day, having to keep it. I mean, smoking is basically kind of walking a tightrope. You got to be careful. You can't take too much in, and you don't want too much to go out. You've got to keep the level constant. And there's different variables that adjust how fast you excrete it, how fast you metabolize it, and it really is a balancing act. A balancing act which is very complicated because you've got so many places that don't let you smoke. People can't smoke in their offices. Some people can't smoke in their homes. Some people can't smoke if they're, doing mass transit. They can't smoke while they're commuting. So it's tricky to be a smoker. Well, you get used to feeling, this not smoking enough or smoking too much on a pretty regular basis. And on top of that, you got the health effects of smoking. It's destroying people's lungs. It's wiping out cilia. It's making it hard for the lung to clean itself out. It's affecting circulation. When you're over smoking, you're getting in too much carbon monoxide in those time periods, and that's causing headaches. You're getting all these physical problems from being a smoker, and all of a sudden, if you quit and you get through the withdrawal period, you can find yourself waking up, or you'll see this with other people, and all of a sudden saying, oh, they feel 100% better. What's real important to remember is trying to think back to those people, if you ever remember them saying, on a day-by-day basis, I feel 100% bad because I smoke. No, these people were never saying that. No, they felt normal. That's what they thought. Yeah, they don't feel, they're maybe a little lethargic, they're a little headachy, they're a little cranky at times when they don't have their nicotine level. But that's not from smoking. They're not attributing any of that to smoking. They're attributing that to, that's their age. That's just, what their life is like at this point in time. It's not until they quit smoking that you can see the contrast, that they can feel the contrast. And then they start to think like all of a sudden they're feeling, just great from not smoking. Let's understand something. A person who never smoked a day in their life, they don't wake up one morning and realize, well, they didn't smoke today. Boy, they feel better than ever. They wake up feeling the way they always feel. Well, that's how a person who quits smoking, once they're off for significant time period, they're going to wake up and feel normal. Now, normal won't feel super. It's going to feel normal. But if they can remember what it was like when they were smoking, if they can remember what it was like. One of the things that I talk about, like in the sleep adjustments video, is how many people find out that they get by on a little bit less sleep after they quit smoking. And how it's noticeable is it used to be when the alarm clock would go off as a smoker, they'd want to kill the clock. They just didn't have enough sleep. They were tired. They didn't want to get out of bed. All of a sudden, many of these people, when they quit smoking, will wake up more alert and refreshed. And it's like, they really are. They can get up and get going now. They can get up and do things. It's so important to try to remember. And again, I'm not saying make up things that weren't the way they were. But if you had problems in the past like that, on a waking kind of thing, or just things that were measurable, an example of something that's measurable, you would go to a friend's house who lived like on a second or third or fourth story building, but they don't have an elevator. So you always took the stairs. Now, I'm not saying that you were so impaired as a smoker that you couldn't get up the stairs. You would get up the stairs. And what would happen is you would knock on the person's door and they'd answer the door, they'd go hello, you'd go ee, and that'd be the conversation. You couldn't breathe, you were out of breath. It was like something, it was, hard that you just took for granted. I mean, you just went up all those stairs. That's normal for you. Well, you may not notice this massive improvement until, you quit smoking, you go to this person's house for the first time, a few weeks into your quit or maybe a few months, and you go up the stairs like you used to, you knock on the door and they answer the door and they go hello and you go hello and you realize, oh my God, I never had that conversation before. There's little things like that that may materialize over time that become noticeable. And you want to remember those things. You want to force yourself to remember, here's an improvement. Because again, human nature is to forget things like this from the past. You forget things that were problematic. And that's a problem, to be able to forget those things. It's good that we have that capability of being able to forget, struggles and pains that we had in the past. If we didn't, we'd have trouble keeping the size of our species alive. You listen to women after delivery of their first baby. Well, never again. That's it. That was terrible. I'm never going through something like that again. But, a number of months go by, a number of years go by, and, it's like, maybe we should have another kid. And, and you just, yeah, it was bad, but, it wasn't that bad. Until you don't remember how bad it was until you're delivering the next kid. And again, the same emotion may be there. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this again. This is terrible. This is horrible. During that delivery process, you could be really struggling. That doesn't mean you won't go on to have a third or fourth kid. Again, with the same reaction each time. Yeah, it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. Again, until the next delivery. So we have this capability of forgetting pain and suffering. And while it's good to keep the size of our species alive, it is dangerous that we have that capability when it comes to addiction. Because again, we forget how hard it was to quit. We forget, how bad smoking was when it was causing suffering. And you start to think back that, I didn't feel that bad when I was a smoker. And you start to think back, and if I go back, I'll just quit again. That wasn't that bad. And you don't remember how bad it is until you relapse. And then all of a sudden, the first thing you start to realize is, oh my God, how you feel as a smoker, that bad thing. But the addiction is now in control. And now to quit, you'd have to go through quitting again. And while all this other time you kind of forgot how bad that was, it becomes very clear to you very quickly what this might be. And it scares people out of doing it. At which point, they go through feeling miserable all the time again. That balancing act of not smoking too much, not smoking too little, not poisoning themselves, not going into withdrawal. And the way they had to do that, again, was balancing nicotine levels by smoking throughout the day as controlled of a manner as they could. It's a horrid way to have to exist. But when actively, feeding an addiction, it's what people go through. It's what you went through for years. It's what you went through for decades before you quit. Once you have your quit going, you do everything you can to keep it going. And one of the things that keep it going is remembering, what it was like to smoke, what it was like to quit, and what it was like right after quitting and you started to feel good, what that feeling was, and realize this is the new normal for you. A new normal you want to keep forever. A normal you will be able to keep forever. As long as you continue to stick with your personal commitment to never take another puff.